Good morning. Today is Friday, July 11th, 2025. When I was a child, I attended the Baronhurst Synagogue in Memphis. Now there is a new building. The new building is probably 30 years old. The new building is in another part of Memphis. So that's the old Baronhurst building. It was a magnificent and gigantic structure. Outside, it was very classical. It was all stone. Inside, it was elegant and modern for the 1960s. When there was a wedding, the chuppah was on the bima in front of the shul, which was raised, and the chuppah was suspended in the air by 4 poles that came down from the ceiling. So there was nothing on the ground holding up the canopy. It was from the ceiling going upwards. So when you looked at it, under the chuppah, there was nothing. It was a very minimalist, elegant look. Much later, I learned that my Rebbe, Rabbi Ephraim Greenblatt, so Rabbi Ephraim Greenblatt was the nephew of Rabbi Nata Greenblatt. I've spoken to you many times about Rav Nata, but Rabbi Ephraim was really my teacher through much of my grade school, primary school, and he was the rabbi that was probably the closest to my family. My father used to study with him. I was his student. He taught me my bar mitzvah lessons. And he was a tremendous Torah scholar in Memphis. So Rabbi Ephraim Greenblatt questioned the validity of this chuppah in the Baronhurst. And he sent this question to his Rebbe, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein. Both Rabbi Ephraim and Rav Nata Greenblatt were primary students of Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, who was the greatest authority in Jewish law at that time. And Rav Moshe's response is published in his work of responsum, Igris Moshe. You can look it up. And he said that chuppah is invalid, because a chuppah is supposed to be its own separate domain. To use the halakhic terminology, a reshus hayachid, a private domain, even though its sides are open, it's supposed to be a separate domain in terms of the laws of Jewish law from the rest of the room. Because that's what the chuppah represents. That's why we have a chuppah, a couple standing under a chuppah. Because the truth is, there are 2 parts to a wedding ceremony, a traditional Jewish wedding ceremony. And in the time of the Talmud, these 2 ceremonies were actually done a year apart. But today, we do them both together. The first ceremony is technically known as Erusin. And that's the ceremony of giving the ring in the presence of 2 witnesses. And that means that at that moment, the couple is married to each other. They are forbidden to have relations with anyone else, but they are not yet living together. And then comes the second ceremony, which is nisuin, or chuppah. And that's when the couple begins to live together. Another way to look at this is that erusin, the giving of the ring, creates the bond, the marriage bond between husband and wife. Nisuin creates the household, which takes its place among the other Jewish households of the community. It is the couple vis-a-vis the community. Now, our ceremony has it a bit out of order, because logically, the giving of the ring does not need to be under the chuppah. It could be outside of the chuppah. and then move into the chuppah, because the chuppah is the second ceremony. And there, when the couple is standing under the chuppah in their new home, that's when we, the community, give them blessings. And that's the Sheva Brachot, the 7 blessings in their new home. So that would be logical. Okay, for various reasons, we do it all under the chuppah. But the chuppah part of the ceremony is during the giving of the Sheva Brachos, the 7 blessings. And we, because in former times they were done separately, a year apart, we're doing them together, so we want to separate the two. And we separate the two by reading the ketubah. There's no technical reason to read the ketubah under the chuppah. The ketubah was signed earlier, it's done, it's finished. The reason that we read it aloud is to make a separation between these two ceremonies, between the Erusin and the Nisuin, because otherwise it looks like it's just one ceremony. And I would imagine if people don't know the technicalities, people probably look at it as just one ceremony, but that's the role of the reading the Ksuvah. As I said, the chuppah represents the first home of this couple, even though it is open on all 4 sides. You may have heard a rabbi speaking under the chuppah speaking to the couple, referred to, you are now in your first home. And the rabbi might say something like, and the sides are open on all 4 sides, like the tent of Abraham and Sarah, where our rabbis tell us it was open on all 4 sides to be able to welcome people from every direction. You may hear a rabbi say that under the chuppah. Now, there is a custom. It's not so widely known, but I knew this, and I did this at my wedding. And that is the chassan, the groom, rents the chuppah. The groom pays himself for the rental of the chuppah, so that at the time of the wedding, it belongs to him. Because, again, it's supposed to represent that he and his wife are standing in their new home. So it should belong to him. And once they're married, it belongs to both of them. There's another custom that you might sometimes see, and that is the groom walks under the chuppah, usually escorted by his parents, and he's standing under the chuppah. And then the kala, the bride, comes, usually escorted by her parents, and she comes under the chuppah, and then she starts to walk around 7 times. There is a custom that the groom walks under the chuppah, into the chuppah, and the bride walks halfway down and she stops. The groom leaves the chuppah to join her in the middle of the aisle, and then the 2 of them walk together into the chuppah. First of all, it's just a nice thing. It looks nice. But second of all, there is a basis for it in Jewish law, because in technical Jewish law terms, they are walking together into their new home. So, the chuppah has to be a separate reshus, a separate domain that is a private domain in the midst of the larger building. And the definition that we use for that is the laws of Shabbos, specifically the laws of building an Eruv, where when we build an Eruv, we are creating a private domain from a public domain. So that means that if a person is Masada Kedushin, we usually translate that as officiating at the marriage, but literally Masader Kedushin means arranges the wedding. That person has to also be knowledgeable in the laws of Eruv. Now, if you have 4 poles standing on the ground, and let's say you have a canopy or a cover that goes over the tops of the poles, and maybe comes down a little bit. That's valid, because that creates a reshus hayachid, a private domain of under that chuppah. Commonly, the way a chuppah is made is that there are 4 poles standing on the ground upright, and then there are 4 pieces that connect the poles, and then there's something on top. It could be a talus sometimes, it could be flowers, it could be whatever it is. But here's the point. If the 4 pieces on top, they need to go over the top of the pole. If the 4 horizontal pieces attach to the side of the pole, it is also invalid. And that's why Rav Moshe invalidated the chuppah at the Baron Hirsch, because there was nothing holding it up from the ground. It was suspended from the ceiling, and so it was not a reshus hayachid, it was not a private domain, and therefore was invalid. When I am Masada Kiddushin, one of the things that I check, preferably in advance, is to make sure the chuppah is kosher. And it has happened a few times in my career that it was not. So, if there are any rabbis or future rabbis listening to this, please add this to your checklist to make sure that the chuppah is kosher according to the laws of Eruv. One time, I did a wedding. I was Masada Kiddushin. I was officiating a wedding, and it was in a rural area. There were no hardware stores nearby. So I got to the place, I checked the chuppah, and it was invalid. It had poles, and the horizontal poles were attached on the side, not over the top. So it was invalid. Fortunately, thank God, I know how to fix it. So I found 8 sticks that were 40 inches long, and I found some wire, and I fixed it like fixing the Eruv. I fixed the chuppah. I can't imagine, had anyone seen me, what they thought I was doing. At the wedding I attended last night, thank God, the chuppah was kosher. I checked before. It was beautiful. But I'll just mention this to you. Next time you attend a Jewish wedding, try to take a look at the chuppah. Now, don't say anything, because it's not your responsibility if you're a guest. It's the responsibility of the person who's officiating. And you don't want to come up with problems just before the wedding. Let it go. I mean, don't say anything to anyone else. But because it is a responsibility of the person who's officiating. But just for your own curiosity, take a look and see if the chuppah is formed in a way that makes it valid, where the horizontal pieces or fabric is going over the top of the pole, not attached to the side. Now, of course, even if the chuppah is invalid, the couple is still married. It doesn't invalidate the marriage. They're married. They should live and be well. It's not an issue. But if a person is Masader Kiddushin, which means they are arranging the wedding, then they should check this as well. Because the Masader Kiddushin, the person who is officiating, should assume responsibility for every detail of Jewish law, every detail of secular law, and also every aspect of sensitivity to the couple and to both of the families. That is all the responsibility, in my opinion and in my practice, that's all the responsibility of the person who's officiating. Decades ago, there was a wedding, and Rav Moshe Feinstein and Rabbi Yosef Soloveitchik happened to both be at the wedding. And Rabbi Soloveitchik was the Masada Kiddushin. The family had asked him to be the officiating rabbi. So just before the chuppah, Rav Soloveitchik said to Rav Moshe Feinstein, go up and take care of this. Rav Moshe said to him, but you're the Masada Kedushin. So the Rav said, yes, I am the Masader Kedushin. I arrange the marriage, and I arrange that you should be the one to officiate. It's a minor detail, but it does have significance. And it's good to know about. I hope every couple with a Jewish wedding is happy, lives a long, happy life together, achieves shalom bayis, true harmony within the home, and the joy and the love that we see at the wedding hopefully is just the beginning, and it will grow from there. My friends, I wish you a great day and a wonderful Shabbos, and I look forward to seeing you soon in person.